Enfield Poltergeist, streaming October 27th on Apple TV+.
Perfect.
Good to meet
Hey,
you. Yeah.
hey, Jerry, how's it going today? Yes, I'm Nigeria Chambers of Big Belt Media, and it is a pleasure to talk to you about the Enfield Poltergeist, which is coming to Apple TV Plus, all 4 episodes, October 27th. Man, this is truly unlike anything I've ever seen. And one, thank you. This was just fascinating. But I gotta tell you, once I got into the second half of the season, things got so creepy. I did not sleep good last night.
Oh dear.
and just I just as a consumer of documentaries, I just have never seen anything put together like this. I guess I want to start off by asking you, listen, you had and this is what the notes say, but I would imagine that there was even more, but there's 250 hours of rare audio, which means you had the job to listen through all of this, plus probably more, hit the cutting board, use what you were going to use, really the sorting out of how you was going to use this. Just talk to me about the approach of coming to a project, having so much at hand, not to mention the folks that you were able to be a part of it who lived through this, which is just mind-blowing to me there.
Yeah, I mean, I think what really excited us, me and my producer Al Morrow, realized there were these tapes, from the house, and so the tapes that were recorded in 1977, they're recorded by this kind of very scientifically minded inventor who really had his own reasons for sort of capturing evidence of the paranormal. And the tapes consist of like testimony interviews that he does immediately after something happens, asks them to describe what they've seen, where they were, and he gets very into kind of, okay, so that moved from there to there. And then he just lets the tape recording run for evening after evening. So the tapes also just contain family life, a sense of what that family is going through psychologically, because these were very traumatic events for them. And every now and then a kind of sound that's inexplicable. And sound is great because you kind of never, you can never really, without a picture, you can never really know for sure what the sound is. You always supply your own pictures, and often you supply the kind of the worst interpretation. So that was an exciting place to start. And then we really just tried to follow the shape of the actual events. They followed this pattern that is a pattern that's been described when people have described poltergeists for centuries, of furniture moving, to knockings, to a kind of voice, to things being thrown around, to people being thrown around, and so
on. Can with the media and the agent of the media, was there any restoration or even conservation actions needed through this?
I mean, the tapes were, as you kind of hear, the tapes are pretty hissy. Morris was not an expert sound recordist. He would just sort of leave, a cassette recorder in the far distance of, it wasn't a big room, but he would leave the cassette recorder a long way away. So yeah, for sure, we try. There was always a bit of a dilemma about how much do we want to clean these up, because for me, it was important that as an audience you remember all the time that the pictures you may be seeing are like this interpretation. We've rebuilt the house, we've put actors in it, they lip sync the audio, but the sounds that you're hearing were recorded in the house and are the authentic sounds. So the clash between those two things, I think, is a good place to be when you're thinking about ghosts. But so we didn't want to over clean them up. There's something charming about 1970s cassette hiss.
Oh, 1,000%. And then the fact that you're talking about ghosts here and the distortion of the voice that we already expect with it, but then you have a distortion with the audio already. So like it just is an extra layer of it, and it's just it's really so chilly. Like, man, it's
there was this whole sort of set of experiments that a guy called Rothwell did, who believed that the spirits could lay down sounds onto tape without human intervention. There's a whole association, I think, between the 70s recording mechanisms and the supernatural, which is a really nice thing.
And as if that wasn't enough, and this is probably a two-part question here, but when you first were approached for this project, was it always going to just be a traditional docuseries, or was it all? Oh, excuse me. Was it always approached to you to be a hybrid docuseries, or was there ever consideration for this to just be a traditional docuseries?
I mean, for me, you know, like it started when we realized the tapes were there, and then we were kind of pitching the idea as a series. But almost like very, very early on, it's almost like, you know, like, I don't know, you're making a film, you have some images before you even start. And for me, the image of like Peggy Hodgson as actor sitting down in a chair and speaking to us, but out of her mouth is coming this 1970s recording. That for me was what I felt the starting point should be. So I guess the idea of recreating this house and of letting the sounds kind of haunt the space and the actors seemed important.
Phenomenal cast of the folks who were here for the reenactment here: Paula Benson, Daniel Lee, Charlotte Miller, Olivia Buford, who just as Janet. Man, this young lady has a bright future, and just really was just must watch in this. Talking about their ability to do sort of, so I say, sort of this voice overing or voice syncing is what it is. Was it ever, what was their approach with this? Like, has this been something they've done before? Was this all new? How did they kind of get the training and coaching in order to like make this really work the way it did?
I think for the younger actors, you know, familiar with TikTok, they were kind of away with it pretty, you know, they had this incredibly natural facility to do it, you know. Older, for people my age, much harder. And we didn't have a lot of rehearsal time, but the actors put in an incredible amount of work. And obviously we had to be very prepared. So, you know, when we hit the shoot, we had to really pretty much have every scene kind of cut audio wise in the way that we wanted it to be. And what they said was that the thing which kind of unlocked that for them was understanding how the person on the tape was breathing. That as soon as you kind of mastered when they took their in breath and when they that was the thing which enabled you to kind of make sense of this lip syncing. So that was, and which we sort of, none of us had done it before actually. So we were discovering a lot of stuff as we went along.
You know, a moment in this series where we get to hear Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famous iconic couple, having their voice on here, I tell you, was just the next level of chilling for me. Obviously anybody who is a fan of The Conjuring, they may have heard those names before, but actually seeing them, actually hearing their voice, actually their involvement with this, you know, especially when there's a little bit of a war about the legitimacy of what's happening. What was sort of your excitement, considering that they're so iconic and, you know, mainstream Hollywood knows who they are, everybody knows about The Conjuring, but what was really your excitement having them involved in this?
Well, I think, I mean, as you say, you know, I tried to avoid kind of watching anything else about it, not to influence me. So I never saw The Conjuring. So I don't know whether I'm the same or different. But what I did try and do was follow, you know, what happened. And the truth of it is they didn't come. They came to the house, you know, for maybe 2-3 days, and this was in an 18-month investigation. So it felt that was the kind of, you know, there's a sort of moment in the series where they enter, and by that stage, the investigation is well underway, you know. But what they do, I think, is give Morris the confidence to continue, you know, at a time when he's most under pressure. So they have an important role in that sense. That they're there sort of, they're there briefly. I mean, the tape recordings, that there's sort of one of maybe two sides of a tape that they're on, and it's fascinating, that kind of dynamic, because they're bringing a whole different experience to it of Amityville and their knowledge of those things. So you know, particularly there's a long section of that tape where Lorraine Warren is on the phone to the National Enquirer, kind of selling the story.
I have one question, so I got to make this one nice and juicy here. I can't imagine, again, just how much more that may be left from everything you've done. If you had to really extend this with all of the content, the media that you had involved with this, about how much longer would this have actually been?
oh, what if we just included all 200 hours? Yeah, I mean, there's plenty more. I
You
don't
know
know if
what?
it was sustained an 8-part series or.
You know what, Jared, listen, this was fantastic, and consider me a fan. I again, I've never seen anything of this sort. One, as a documentary itself is fascinating, as a docu-series, and just the reenactment aspect of it's fascinating. Combining the two, using the stock footage, obviously all of the audio, the work of the actors, bringing it all together, it really lacks nothing. For 4 episodes, an hour each, you're stuck at your seat, little scared like me, possibly. I'd swear some of those voicing was very difficult to get to bed at night. But it's just really just remarkable work, and I truly appreciate your time in talking about this. I got to see what you're going to cook up next, man. This one was great.
Thanks, Ajay. Great to speak to you.
Absolutely.
Hope
Listen,
you
folks.
sleep well.
Thank you. The Enfield Poltergeist is coming to Apple TV Plus October 27th. 4 episodes, an hour each. Be ready to be informed. Be ready to be spooked out. Be ready to have yourself a good old time. It is something special, and I enjoyed every minute of it. So again, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks.
Prejudice.